All right, welcome back to Creative Sound, everybody. I hope everybody's having a great day. I hope everybody's doing okay. And I wanted to move into our very first extra segment, movie review, which is about Scream 2022, which was one of the most highly anticipated films for me of the year, right along with Jurassic World Dominion and a few others. So let's dive right on into it. But before we do, disclaimer, this is a spoiler review, and I wanted to still give people the fair chance that haven't saw it yet to see it. Even though it's been out for 2 months, there still are some people who haven't saw it, so here's our spoiler jingle. No spoilers, you should leave now. It's a warning, spoilers. So the first thing I want to talk about is the opening. The opening of Scream 2022 catches you completely off guard. Like, from what they show in the trailer, it completely misleads you. You have no idea what you're getting yourself into. And I just want to say that I really, really, really enjoyed Jenna Ortega's performance throughout this film, and especially this opening scene, because it really does establish her as a character. Tara Carpenter, she's at odds with her big sister Samantha, kinda, sorta, not really at odds, but estranged or whatever, and she really is a fighter. That's what I took from her whole entire performance in this movie, is that if she going down swinging. And I really do admire the fact that she's essentially the only victim that has survived the opening scene out of all the other 4 entries. And I'm really intrigued by that, and I liked that twist, because in the theater, after the title card came through, it was so intense. I felt so bad for her, and I just knew she was dead, because that's the way that the last opening ended with Jenny Randall back in Scream 4. She essentially was rolled over on her back, and then Ghostface, the killer, stabs her off screen, and she's presumed dead. So I thought that was the same thing for Tara, but Radio Silence was like, got him, and they pulled what they pulled, and I really did enjoy that. But moving on from that opening scene, I really did enjoy this movie. Like, from, I'm gonna say, all the way up to Act 3. I'll get to Act 3 in a minute, because I do have some issues with it. I fairly enjoyed this film. I was on the edge of my seat. It was very fast-paced. It was way more fast-paced than the other ones, in my opinion. Like, it just felt like Ghostface was bam, 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 just taking people out. And when you saw Ghostface on the screen, he meant business. He or she, meant business. And you just knew what was coming. You knew that someone was just gonna be killed in whatever scene it was. But getting into characters, I just want to say that I loved Melissa Barrera's performance. I'm sorry if some of you guys may disagree. I really did enjoy her performance, because she just represented this person that went through so much, and now she just doesn't know how to react to stuff. It's like she's numb, and that's why maybe some people feel like she didn't put out her best form of art. I haven't watched The Heights or anything else that she's been in, but I really did enjoy her performance. I genuinely did, because her performance really resonated with my personal self, and I could relate to it, because sometimes when you go through so much in life, or you're faced with certain things, you start to get numb to stuff, and it's scary, because you can't really get out of it. And you should eventually seek counseling and stuff like that. But I really did enjoy her performance. I loved Chad, Mindy, Amber I never was really a fan of. Richie was okay. Tara I love, of course, and Vince was irrelevant in my opinion. And I love Judy Hicks. A lot of people don't like her, but I love her. And Wes he was okay. He really, really was. And I'm forgetting somebody. What was her name? Liv. She was alright. She was clearly a red herring. She was okay. But I felt like her character could have used a lot more purpose and development. And I kind of feel like that with all the characters besides Sam and Tara. I think outside of them, Chad and Mindy were the most developed besides Sam and Tara, in my personal opinion. And this is no shade or no hate, no bashing to the creators, because I know you only have a certain amount of time or certain allotted amount of time for these films. And, it's not Marvel where you can have a 3-hour, almost 4-hour film on Ghostface slashing everybody. Because some people, I wouldn't, but some people will probably get tired of it after a while. But hey, that's just cinema. But moving along from that topic, I feel like that the middle of the film is where, it really gets real and Scream really established itself. Because one of Wes Craven's original plans was to kill Dewey Riley in Scream 96. But he chose to keep him alive because he loved the character so much. Well, Radio Silence made it very clear that this was a movie for the fans and, most importantly, to honor the late Wes Craven. They went all out and they honored him in some of the most meta ways possible with Wes Hicks's death, and they shot some scenes, like his scenes, and recreated moments, some intentionally, some not, and it was just all out amazing what they did. And I'm very proud and I'm very thankful that we have, such an amazing team that cares about the franchise and what comes before it, because that's very important. And the biggest way, in my personal opinion, that I felt like they honored Wes Craven was killing off Dewey Riley. Hands down, they killed off a fan favorite character. A fan favorite. I mean, of course, Sidney Prescott's always going to be everyone's number one, but people still love Dewey just as much, and it's going to be hard going forward without him, as far as, coming from a fan standpoint, because I do love his character, and he's goofy, quirky, and I'm going to miss him. But that was an amazing tribute to Wes Craven and what he originally wanted for the character back in Scream 96. And I love, love, love that from Radio Silence. But moving on to the third act, and I'll start a little bit before it. When Sidney Prescott makes her grand appearance on screen, I just want to say that I love Neve Campbell. I love Courtney Cox as well. And I just love their interaction now. It's just so grown up compared to their past interactions, in Scream 96 and Scream 2. And, it's just very different and I love it. But moving on from that, Sidney Prescott is, of course, a badass in the third act, and I loved every second of it. I mean, I can't get enough of Sidney, man. Like, I know going forward it makes zero sense for Sidney Prescott to return to any Scream film, but goodness, I love her. But I really need to focus. Okay, enough about building up to the third act. Let's actually talk about it and why I disliked it. Everything else in the film I loved, but the third act, no. Okay, so my first issue in the third act is going to be the motive. The motive, to me, I just thought they were going to do something different. No, I didn't think Stu was going to return. That would be ridiculous. No matter what anyone says, that is ridiculous, completely and utterly ridiculous for Stu Macher to return at this point. But focusing back on the motive of Scream 2022, them being just fans of the movie or of the movies wasn't enough for me. Them recreating their movie or making a new movie for Hollywood, it just didn't do it for me. That motive was not the strongest motive, especially for a Scream film. But This isn't me bashing. Again, I love the movie. I just wasn't the biggest fan of the motive. And a lot of people hate Scream 4, which I love, by the way. It's my favorite after the first one. I really think Scream 4 has one of the best motives in the entire franchise. It's gonna be hard to top that one. Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson outdid themselves on that script in that third act in that film, because boy, do I tell you, Jill Roberts sold being a killer. Now, people always like to say, oh, it takes me out of the film because Charlie and Jill are so skinny and they can't possibly toss people through windows and do this, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, we see that all the time in any of the films. So I feel like Scream 4 just gets ripped to shreds, and people are very biased towards it. I will admit, Charlie Walker's killer reveal was very lackluster, but Jill Roberts made me forget all about it. Every time, it just, because it all happened so fast, And I don't want to be completely subjective on this matter. I'm gonna say that I can openly admit that Emma Roberts is tiny, and she's obviously smaller than the man or the stuntman that played Ghostface. I get that, but to me, where that didn't matter anymore was me seeing her whole self-mutilation scene, and she was basically one of the only Ghostface to come extremely close to ending Sidney Prescott's life. She was very sadistic, and I just loved Jill. She was crazy. But this isn't about Scream 4. I will do a separate review on Scream 4, but I just wanted to compare the two films because I keep seeing people say, oh, it was better than Scream 4, and I'm like, I wouldn't go that far, but I still loved it. So back to Scream 2022. So I did not care for Amber as a killer, and I'm gonna tell you why. Amber fell flat to me because my whole thing is, what really makes Scream is the killer reveals mixed with the motives. Those are the two parts in the third act that have to be executed correctly, or the whole film can be displaced. And I think we saw that in Scream 2022, how the motive wasn't really that solid as it could have been. And I think mixed with Amber being the killer, and I'm probably just being really, really biased because Amber, I just didn't really care for her as a character in general. But Mikey Madison as an actress, she is amazing as an actress. I love her. But for the character that she had to play, I wasn't really a fan of the switch from calm to sadistic or psychotic. I wasn't a fan of that switch because it just came off forced and awkward for Amber's character. And beyond us seeing her with the friends group in the beginning and at the bar, at Mindy's house for like 2 minutes, Amber was barely in the film. So, you can view it as trying to establish red herrings, but I just feel like what really makes Scream for me personally is when the killers are just standing in your face and, right there with you the whole time and are literally the ones trying to kill you. Now, that does have a kind of a conflict as well in itself because, if they're with you the whole time, then there's only going to be but so many times they can be unaccounted for in your face. And oftentimes those people are the masterminds behind the whole operation. But that's why I really did enjoy Richie as a killer in this film. I really enjoyed it because it did catch me off guard. And I wasn't a fan of the motive, but I liked how he presented himself to Samantha, and he played that nice boyfriend, kind and helping man to the very last second. Literally, when Sydney's like, Richie, gun, he's like, oh, you shot me in the leg, hold on. Like, he played it to the last second. And then when Samantha got the gun, he was like, good, you got the gun. And then just stabs her. That was pretty tight. But overall, the third act could have been a little better. It was still an amazing film. What I wanted to see was, something different, and they really could have went a different route, but kept it current, if you know what I mean. But hey, Radio Silence did an amazing job with this film. I absolutely loved every minute of it. I watch it, feels like almost every day, and I watch reactions to it. So it's an amazing movie, and I can't wait for the next one. But thank you guys so much for listening today and, bearing with me. I know I talk a lot, but I appreciate it. And please like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I would love to hear all your thoughts down in the comment section below. Thank you guys. Be safe, stay creative, and keep following your dreams.